Pointlessness and boy perfume. If you had a father who hadn't shown any emotion for 3 or 4 months, and then you stumbled upon him weeping as though someone had just shot Bambi right in front of his eyes, what would you do? Right? You would sneak away and never let on that you had seen anything. That's what I did. I crept back into the basement like a highly skilled sneak thief and then proceeded to listen to the most calming music I know, the Beatles. Somewhere between Revolution and Hey Jude, I fell asleep. When I awoke in a small puddle of my own drool on the ratty playroom carpet, with my left earphone seemingly welded to my head by the force of gravity, I looked at the Zildjian symbol clock my parents got me for my birthday. It was 11:45 p.m. I still felt pretty sure of two things. Nobody had noticed that I had hidden away in the dark basement like a leper, and everyone would be asleep when I went upstairs this time. For a change, I was doubly right. In the kitchen, I couldn't help but notice that my dad's mysterious pile of depressing papers was just sitting on the table in plain view. To see or not to see? That was the question. Well, for about a tenth of a second anyway, then I dove on the papers like Sherlock Holmes on a cappuccino binge. What was I looking at? What had turned my strong, silent dad into a weeping mess of pudding was a stack of bills. Medical bills, Jeffrey's bills. The top sheet was written in my dad's handwriting. It was a tally of the total unpaid amount to date, $27,000. The total expense so far was unbelievable, definitely in the six-figure range. If not for the fact that my parents both had good health insurance, which I knew from overhearing some discussions about this stuff, we would already have blown the whole cost of a college education in these 3 months. And I knew Jeffrey was going to need at least 3 years of treatment. As it was, I figured I'd be attending the University of, would you like some fries with that? There was no way either of us would have any kind of college fund at the end of this. Then I had an even more depressing thought. Jeffrey might not be around long enough to go to college. Okay, so we were losing money hand over fist. My dad was crumbling like a day-old scone, and my brother might die. Really, what could I do about any of this? At the moment, the only answer I could come up with was nothing. I went upstairs to get ready for bed. A new obsessive slogan started running through my mind. It worked like this. Okay, I'll brush my teeth now, but Jeffrey might die, so what's the point? Time to wash my face, but mom's not working. Dad makes maybe $40,000 a year after taxes, and there's $27,000 in unpaid bills downstairs. We're going to be homeless any minute, so what's the point? I should floss now too, but I didn't even brush, so what's the point? So I went to bed with a grimy face and yuck-encrusted teeth, and that was just the start of my depressing what's the point period. The next day, I came back from my week of absence in a barrage of, oh my God, what's wrong with Jeffrey? Is your mom okay? How's your dad taking How's your dad taking it? What, were you sick? Oh. You can imagine that didn't snap me out of my funk too well. Renee talked with me all through homeroom, which should have made me ecstatic, but I just kept thinking, soon I'll be leaving school to go live under an overpass, so what's the point of Renee liking me now? Also, somewhere in the back of my mind, I was realizing that she hadn't suddenly discovered that I was an actual human being type person because of my new attributes I had developed. She was just temporarily fascinated by me as a tragic figure. I still couldn't help going gaga over how beautiful she was, but I was almost mad at her because she wasn't noticing me for the right reasons. Annette was truly concerned about me, though. In Miss Palma's class, she offered to come over after school a few days that week and catch me up on my classwork in every subject we had together. That was pretty comforting because I didn't want to didn't want to fail all of my finals after the massive makeup work I had done before my flu episode, and Annette always got A's in everything. There was one problem. My math period was Annette's piano period, so she couldn't bail me out in math. I was tempted to say, I'm going to fail the hardest subject anyhow, so what's the point? I didn't, though. I was determined to pull all of my grades through this, so I wouldn't add to my parents' worries. In math class, I went to the teacher and told him I would need help if I wanted to learn the week of new material I'd miss. I was torn between hoping he'd offer to meet me during our opportunity period and teach me the stuff himself, and being afraid that spending too much time one on one with a math teacher would crack me completely and turn me into a deranged lunatic. Oh well, I figured. At least I'll be the life of the underbridge party crowd then. The teacher did not offer to catch me up, though. Instead, he asked for a volunteer who was willing to tutor me at home. And he got one. Renee Albert. Holy cow. Renee Albert was coming to my house. Renee Albert was coming to my house. Even I couldn't think, what's the point of Renee Albert coming to my house with a straight face? I just said, wow, thanks, Renee. Well, while every other guy in the class looked at me like I had a big target painted on my forehead. It was one of my drum lessons with Mr. Watrous, and when I walked in, he handed me a couple of tissues, pointed to the garbage can, and told me to show him my newfound hoop skills. I got it in, swish, and sat down at the drum set. It was a great feeling to be playing drums after more than a week away from them, and Mr. Watrous must have understood because he just sat back and watched me burning through the kit at full speed for a couple of minutes. When I stopped, he surprised me by talking about my academic situation, which we had never discussed again after the ugly meeting I had had with my teachers. So I hear you've made up all of your old work. Yeah. Do you have a plan for making up the work you missed last week and studying for finals? Yes. Annette is going to tutor me in everything except math, and this other girl is going to help me with math. Great. Listen, Stephen, I'm really glad you're back on track with this school stuff. We absolutely depend on you in All City, and I'm thrilled that we can keep you in the ensemble. Me too. But part of me was thinking, what's the point of practicing for a super concert when my brother might not be alive to see it? The week went by like that, with me going to school, my mom and Jeffrey coming and going between home and Philly, my dad staring off into space even more than he had been the past few months. I kept having those what's the point moments, but plugged away at life pretty consistently anyway. And Annette came by 3 times to help me study. You know what? She is an amazing tutor. I understood everything when she explained it and got hundreds on social studies quizzes and science labs thanks to her. There was an awkward moment when she first saw Jeffrey because it was the first time seeing him after all bald and puffy. But she covered her shock well. And by the second night, she was playing board games with him every time she took a break while I did practice quizzes or writing assignments. He was happy with the attention, and I noticed something interesting. She was much more patient and honestly excited to play with him than I was. So Annette was the absolute perfect tutor pal, and I should have been kissing the ground beneath her feet and carrying her book bag to school every day, right? But even while I was getting so much from her, I couldn't stop thinking about next week when Renee would be coming over. On Thursday night of that week, Mom and Jeffrey left for a quick 2-day trip to Philly for blood counts and a couple of chemotherapy injections. Their procedures were pretty routine by then, but the results were. Jeffrey's counts were really low, so low that the doctors gave him 2 transfusions, one of whole blood and one of platelets. This turned the 2-day trip into a 4-day trip. I heard my dad on the phone saying that the hospital bills were running around $2,000 a night, so I knew our financial picture wasn't getting any rosier. Also, my mom told me that Jeffrey would probably be even more vulnerable to germs in the foreseeable future. So I should be extra careful to avoid being near anyone who is sneezing, coughing, and to wash my hands when I walked into the house every day. I asked if I should just stay home and live in a plastic bubble with Jeffrey, and she warned me that I might, in fact, have to stay out of school for a while if something like chickenpox started going around. So I was freaking out. On the one hand, my head was a mess of tumbling worries, rising poverty, falling blood counts, alarming potential for quarantine. On the other hand, Renee was coming. Renee was coming to my house. Tuesday was the big day. Midterm exams were a week away, so I needed Renee's help pretty big time. Also, I couldn't get past the excited part of the deal. Renee in my house. I missed math for a drum section rehearsal. You really have to love the logic of getting called out of math for band right before exams. And Renee wasn't on the bus on the way home from school. So we didn't confirm that she would be coming over, but I assumed the plan was on for 7 p.m., which was what we had arranged the week before. I ate with my mom and Jeffrey at 6 o'clock. My dad was still at his office. It was the beginning of tax season, which accountants get busier and busier leading up to April 15th. I figured we could use some extra income, so I was betting my dad would be really busy this year. Anyway, my mom noticed that I was being quieter than usual, and Jeffrey started in. He's saving up all his smooth talking for his big date with Renee Albert. It's not a date, nutball. She's just tutoring me in math. I bet you're going to kiss her, right? She has a boyfriend, Jeffrey. You know that. She's still going out with Biff, the guitar player. But she's coming over to play with you. She's not playing with me. She's teaching me about numbers and stuff. So when are you going to kiss her then? Mom, this kid is out of control. Can't we just give him some tranquilizers or something? Maybe a padded cell upstairs. Then my mom got rolling. Stephen, is there something going on between you and Renee? I noticed you're dressed more neatly than usual, and your hair is even combed down. And he's wearing boy perfume, Mom. He wasn't wearing any last week when Annette came over, but for Renee, he is. It's called cologne, monkey boy. Since when do you wear cologne to learn math? Oh, my son is growing up right in front of my very eyes. Maybe I should get out the video camera. Maybe you should tie me to a stake, douse me in kerosene, and torch me right in our front lawn. I won't need any kerosene, Stephen. I'm sure the cologne will go up pretty fast. Ha ha, Mom. Just then the doorbell rang. Please keep the lunatic away from us, Mom. We have work to do. Is kissing hard work or easy work, Stephen? Mom, remove him. I went to answer the door, and when I opened it, Renee was standing there, all bundled up against the winter, with a few snow flurry flakes on her jacket. Her cheeks were flushed from the wind, and her hair was blowing around. I just wanted to reach out and brush the strands away from her face, but that didn't seem like a good tutorial beginning. Plus, Biff looked like the kind of guy who could rip my arms off and use them as toothpicks. So I just said hi instead. She said hello back, and I was just about to step aside and let her in, but then she sneezed and coughed and sneezed again. Excuse me, Stephen. I'm coming down with some kind of virus thing, I think. I went home early from school today and skipped cheering, but I didn't want to stand you up. You have so many big problems going on. I just couldn't let you down. So I'm here. Let's get to work. I blocked the doorway with my body and said something that seemed to float up from a place beyond my worst nightmares. Renee, I can't let you in. What do you mean? It's cold out here and we've got a lot to do. I mean, I'm sorry. I just can't let you come into my house. You're sick and Jeffrey can't get sick right now. Stephen, you're being ridiculous. It's probably just a cold anyway. A cold could put my brother in the hospital. Stephen, what's really going on? Do you hate math so much that you couldn't stand it? Do you want to fail the class? Then I wish you would have told me that before I stomped through the snow to get over here. Renee, I'm serious. This isn't about math. And it can't just be about me. Any boy in the school would be drooling to have me come over. And everybody knows you've had a crush on me since 3rd grade, haven't you? So just let me in. I'm sorry, Renee. Do you want me to call your mom to come get you? Without responding to me directly, she spun around on her heels like the dancer she was and marched away. I could hear her muttering about me all the way to the end of the driveway. Ugh. I walk in the boy's house in a I walk to the boy's house in a blizzard. He doesn't even let me in. He drools over me for half a decade, and when I can deliver myself to his front door, he slams it in my face. I will never understand boys. At that point, she fired a parting shot over her shoulder. Go ahead then, fail math, and be lonely for the rest of your life. As I slumped against the door frame, staring at her back and wondering how she could have been so graceful in snow boots and a parka when she wasn't even feeling well, Jeffrey came up behind me. You know, Stephen, you were right. I guess you aren't going to kiss her.